Welcome back to Terminator Reboot Day 2. You know, I got a lot of concern yesterday. A lot of people sending videos, sending comments, sending emails, just, hey, be careful about this because, you declare something like this to the internet, you're really setting yourself up for failure. And what I think you guys need to understand about me is that if I say I'm going to reboot the Terminator in 30 days from now, there will be a script that will exist that will be for the Terminator. So this is my first time at the rodeo. I've done this 75, 80 times already. I've written over 100 scripts. So I don't have the fear of facing the blank page the way a lot of writers would. I don't have the trepidation of whether or not I can meet a deadline. I've met it over and over and over and over to discipline myself to be ready for this moment. So let's get rid of all that. When we look at the Terminator, the first thing you got to do is you got to sit in the room with your producers. And right now, you guys are my producers. You guys are the studio. You guys are the development executives. You guys are the fans who know this franchise and know what you want to see out of it and know what you want it to be and know what it could be and know what it has been and know where it's gone and where it's going and where it could go. And what you need to do is use this opportunity to weigh in, not just on some, I don't know if he's going to make it, which is fine. That's great. I love that. That's all fantastic. That engagement is fueling me. Please tell me over and over again that I'm a failure and I have no talent. I don't know why. I'm weird and broken. I need that. But the real most important thing is to kind of look at where the franchise is headed and what we're doing with it and weigh in and say, don't do that, or that sounds dope, let's do that. So if we go back and look at the original Terminator and we really map out kind of what we love about it, yes, it's the time travel. Yes, it's the, human flesh over an endoskeleton. Yes, it's the the cool visuals of Stan Winston and his puppeteering and Cameron's sort of overall vision for it. The punch through glass, I think, was so sick the way they did that. But I think that zooming way out, that was a sort of a biblical story in my mind. It's almost like, could you go back in time and kill baby Jesus? Or better yet, could you go back in time and kill Mary before she had the baby? Could King Herod's guards, who were sent out to destroy the firstborns all across the city, could those guards find the pregnant mother and kill her before the savior of humanity is born? JC, John Connor, as Jesus Christ. And almost every religion in the world has a version of their savior. A lot of them actually believe in that version of the savior, whether or not it holds the same weight in each religion or not. And I think what Cameron really tapped into that I thought was special and fantastic and unique was the idea that the John the Baptist character is sent to protect Mary because, he knows he has this information, he has this vision. God has given him this vision to have seen the world that will be. And he kind of goes back in time and builds the protection around Mary, teaches Mary, protects Mary. Literally, in Cameron's story, becomes the father of the Savior himself. But the general idea of building something on a biblical sort of context has a built-in awareness and a built-in, like people talk about, built-in IP. It's not just the IP. It's taking the hero's journey story and applying it to sort of religious, mythical, framework and context. So that's great. We're not going to have baby Jesus, John Cameron, Sarah Connor, or Arnold Schwarzenegger in our micro-budget movie. Like, that's not going to be the palette that we get to play with. But I think that what we can have that they haven't done that I think is an interesting thing is look at the 12 disciples. The 12 disciples were, ultimately a sort of, insular protective force around the John Connor character who helped him to become what he is. And in Terminator 2, he kind of mentions, my mom used to shack up with anybody who could teach me something and yada, yada, yada. And I think that that's such a fascinating general kind of idea. If you think about, come with me if you want to live as a catchphrase, it's not that far from I will make you a fisher of, come with me and I will make you a fisher of men, which is, Christ, I can't join your band of 12 guys because I'm nothing. I'm nobody. I'm just a fisherman. Come with me and I'll make you a fisher of men. So it's like, how do you tell the story of the 12 disciples inside the Terminator, universe? And how do you take that as put it like an umbrella way over it? Now, we're not going to tell the 12 disciples story. That's not what this is about. But this is sort of the umbrella is we're going to get to building the disciples. That's what the initiative of the Terminator reboot is going to be, is like the big picture is, okay, you have the Jesus story, you have Mother Mary, you have birthing of the Savior of humanity, right? And you have the, John the Baptist, Jesus' cousin, like it doesn't line up exactly, but the character that has also been bestowed with the information, who comes back to protect the Mary character. So what you want to do in this is you want to kind of figure out, how do we make an analogy to the story that we're telling now? And I think that the first thing is low budget automatically. When you put budget as first, and budget's your first consideration, and it's not going to be a massive CGI fest, and it's not going to be two big CG things smashing into each other, having huge fights. What you want to do is you want to look at contained space. And contained space is set a movie in a house. How do you set it in a house? Now, I'm not saying 100% of this movie needs to take place in a house, but I'm saying that you need to reconceptualize and target the size and scope of the storytelling that you're about to take on into something that is like done in a very contained space way, so that you don't have the cost of company moves and lots of securing locations, lots of exterior locations. What you want to have is, you want to have the movie primarily take place in sort of a pot boil, like a pressure cooker, kind of format, where it's like, how do we really, really, really make this like, on rails, like a train barreling down the track, and like someone's strapped to the track, and we're just feeling that tension out of whether or not they're going to survive. I mean, remember, slasher movie. So slasher movie is one person is unstoppable and the other person runs. So a very, very, very sort of simple premise for Terminator 1 that we want to kind of import. And we're not going to do another slasher movie. It's not going to be a person who is hunted. I think they've done that sort of over and over. And I think that people conceptually think the Terminator is about a person who runs and a slasher who chases them. And it is, and that's great. And they did it, and it's fine. And what I want to think about is how to kind of conceptualize a little bit bigger, a little bit wider. So how big is the sandbox? How can we take this sandbox and take the ideas contained in this sandbox, but kind of boil them down and make them figure out, like, okay, how do we tell that story inside sort of a Terminator world? And you have to imagine the T-800 isn't the first thing that rolled off the line. I mean, if you go back to the beginning, it was literally like drones. It was the drones that we have today. It was like it was the drones. It's drones. I would sort of go back even further than that and say, okay, rather than make this a drone chase movie, how do we make this like mano a mano? How do we make this a human and a human? How do we put two human beings in a room and have the dialogue and the conversation and the characterization and like the empathy of these people in this situation be the primary driver? And you know what really got me thinking about this was, I saw a video where Cameron said that the one thing he got wrong was the nuclear war. And while I understand what he's saying is that in modern times, AI taking over wouldn't automatically launch nuclear weapons, because that would affect their ability to get power and to continue to rule. I also think that he captured, like, his finger was on the pulse with that, because everyone, and I know everyone who saw it and talked about it and heard about it, that was the sickest part, is like, of course, robots are going to launch nuclear weapons. So I'm maybe giving a little more grace than he gives himself. But the comment that he made was that they don't need to blow us up, because they've kind of learned how to turn us against each other. And that vision caused me to have a sleepless waking dream where I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, oh my God. A man walks into a cafe, roadside diner, small town vibes, sits down at the counter, and his face is sort of ground hamburger, like he's beat to a pulp. He's been through it. He's sort of bleeding and limping, and he's at the end of what was a very harrowing adventure. And he sits down at the counter and he orders his food, and they serve up his coffee and they bring it over, and you get vibes of Sarah and the opening Bob's Big Boy, and you get like that kind of feel of it, that sort of echo of that. And then somebody gets an alert on their phone, and they look up and they look around and they see him, and they lean over and show the alert to someone else at their table. And then that person starts whispering to someone else, and then he taps the shoulder of another guy, and then someone else gets an alert, and then someone else and someone else. And pretty soon, unbeknownst to this man sitting at the counter, everyone at the cafe is sort of looking at him and noticing him, and very, very aware that he is the person that they're seeing on their phone. And so you get that obligatory scene with the tough cowboy who walks up and, lifts the bun off the burger and spits on the top of it. Whatever the version of that is, what you want is the idea that Cameron sort of tapped into, and I think is the starting place for the reboot, is they don't have to actually fire nuclear weapons. They already won. They won without firing a single shot. And they won because what they've done is they've learned how to weaponize the algorithm. The algorithm itself is the weapon. It is the nuke. It is the tool by which the machine intelligence, I mean, whether it's Skynet or whatever people want to call it now, the machine intelligence would not have to resort to the physical elimination of human lives on a mass scale, because they could point to, like a cancer, like a white blood cell attacking an antibody, something that doesn't belong. They could point to any citizen anywhere in the world at any time and put a finger on that person and say, you gotta go, and we're going to cause the swarm that causes it. And so I think all of social media, the idea of, perpetually online and cancel culture and all of the targeted anger and fear and just the brutality that we want to aim at those who have committed injustices is easy to weaponize using social media to target a person. And so I think if that's how you start this movie, and that's kind of how, and by the way, I think that's the end of the movie. I don't think that's the start. I think that's the end. But I think that if you start the movie there, the audience already knows this guy is a total piece of shit, right? This guy has done something. This guy, we don't know where he's been. We don't know what he's done. We know that he is he is not a good guy. This is not a good guy that we're looking at. So I think that to start that and sort of build to a climax that can't get any, maybe they chase him out of that cafe, and maybe the biker bar across the street, which is once again a nod to the franchise. The dudes come out with like leather and Harleys, and they're like, there he is, get him on some, get him, like, you know what I mean? Like you kind of turn this into a realization that no matter what this guy's going to go through in this movie, that by the end he's going to have incurred the wrath of the algorithms, and the whole world is kind of turning against him. And I think you smash to black at the height of that, like you think that can't get any, like right when it's about to just peak, you smash to black, and then you cut to like 24 hours ago. And the movie shows what the series of events are that happened that made that happen, put that man in that situation, that made that thing possible. And I think, I don't have the movie. I'm not pitching the movie. I'm not saying this is the movie. I'm saying that Cameron said in an interview they would never fire a nuclear shot because they've weaponized, the algorithm of social media, something to that extent. I don't remember exactly what he said, but what I heard was, okay, so take the nuclear side out of it and put it in the context of modern sort of social media information warfare, propaganda, deep fakes. You have a wide palette on which to construct your story, or the possibilities of constructing your story. And then, figure out what that story is in that house. Like, figure out what that story is in that house. The man should look clean and pressed and, perfectly fine, because it was 24 hours ago before any of this stuff happened to him. So, I think that gives you a starting place to say, okay, here's the umbrella. This is going to be a 12 disciples story. We're not going to do the Mother Mary, Baby Jesus story. We're going to do the putting together of the team, or sort of the conceptually, you want to say who are the disciples. And, I think they've done that. They've done little bits and pieces of this and other stuff. But like what everyone's tried to do is they've tried to incorporate this into the tentpole, massive $150 million swing for the fences. And once again, the spectacle of it, the eye candy of it, the modern cinema grammar doesn't lend itself to the $200 million, $250 million Terminator movie, because it's not sort of built from the ground up to be that. So low budget, smart, small, tight, taut Terminator movie that is basically a horror film through and through in every respect, and something that's contained space, that's set in a house in one location with a limited number of actors, who kind of unfolds in this sort of almost stage play drama, tension from characters and characterization over, massive amounts of spectacle. And I think that's the start. I don't know. I think we got to zoom out, and I think we got to do more kind of structural stuff, but I think that's the start, and I think that's inspiration, and I think that's what you go with to begin the process. So day 2, not terrible. Oh, and to the people saying like, how is this even, okay, here's how it's going to work. There's going to be discussion, followed by treatment, followed by scriptment, followed by first draft. The last 10 days of the month are your first draft. 10 days in a row, 12 pages a day. That's 120 pages. That's your first draft. It's it's a 10-day draft. But backwards engineering it, like I don't mean to get into the weeds, but I did write a nonfiction time travel book, Remember the Future. The process is simple. 30 days from now, you want to be holding a stack of papers, and on top of that stack of papers is going to say Untitled Terminator Reboot, and so you know that's where you're at in 30 days. And so you start to work backwards from there. So you know you need 10 days to write your draft. So now you're at day 20. And by day 20, you want to kind of have your treatment locked. You don't want to still be trying to figure that stuff out, because if you don't have that down, you can't go into writing 10 pages a day for a 12 page a day for a 10-day draft. So we know that 20 days from now, we got to have a locked treatment, scriptment. We got to have some bits of dialogue. We got to know who our characters are, which means a treatment's usually like a 1 to 2 week process. So that means 2 weeks, 14 days, 20 minus 14 is 6 days from now, we want to have a start on the treatment process. And when we start building it and we want to start testing things out, when we start putting them in, we want to start constructing it so that we have 4 or 5 days to really just start talking smack. Like we can just talk about Terminator for a couple days. And this would happen in the development meetings. This would happen between the producer and the writer before the studio was ever heard about it or was ever pitched. So you guys are kind of getting to see what the process was like. I've been through this probably maybe 1,000 times with different writing clients or different producers on my own work. It's fascinating. And if you're into it and if you like it, that's the thing. And for everyone saying it can't be done, like, Jesus, guys, James Cameron wrote he wrote Alien Part 2, Aliens, and he wrote Aliens with a $sign, by the way. He wrote Aliens, the draft of Aliens, that is the movie that you see, and Rambo First Blood Part 2 as a kind of a smart, character-driven take on his trauma. Both of them at the same time in a 30-day time span. So all he did was sit down and figure out the math of how much time he had that was awake, and then divided up how much time he would need to write each one of them, and then allocated that time and then did the work. So if he did this 30, 40 years ago, it's not impossible for us to do this today. Like, if you haven't done it, watch and learn. We're going to do it together. I'm going to post it as we go. I hope you guys get something from it, but let me know. Engage. Let's talk about it. Let's do this together. Thanks, guys. See you in part 3.